Lately, the mirror has become something I not only loathed, but also feared. I could hide my imperfections in pictures with some editing, but I couldn't hide them in a mirror. It only made me hate myself and my aging more. The longing for my youth eating away at my soul. My birthday is next month. I'll be 30. My family kept trying to make me feel more positive about it, saying it's a milestone in life, one I can look forward to. All I view it as is me slowly becoming an old lady. Crow's feet and lines on my forehead were already appearing. Smile lines, not too far behind. And I felt like I was wasting away. "Yeah, that is pretty ugly," said the voice, interrupting my pity party. "I can help you feel beautiful, though." I felt tears welling up in my eyes at the voice's confirmation of my fears. I've been stuck with it for a month, growing increasingly more fed up with it. But no matter what I tried, it wouldn't go away. I had no idea where it had even come from, but I knew I couldn't let anyone know about it. What if they thought I was crazy? My focus on the mirror was distracted when I heard my cell phone ringing from the living room. I quickly headed for it, waiting to see who it was. The name Cheryl shone above answer and decline buttons, and a slight smile popped up on my face at the realization that my best friend was calling me. Her face popped into my head. Platinum blonde hair, blue eyes, porcelain skin, full lips. We were both only months apart in age. She looked like she was 21. She was the beauty queen of our school, homecoming queen, prom queen, captain of the cheerleading team, and everything that every girl in our school wanted to be. She was definitely everything I had ever wanted to be. I don't really know why she chose me as her best friend, but I was glad that she did because it kept me from getting picked on. Everyone loved her, and they loved anyone that she loved. Cheryl and I had been best friends since childhood, middle school to be exact. She had always been there when I needed her, and I loved her for that. Just her presence was capable of improving my mood. A smile featuring her signature dimples felt like liquid happiness. This time around, though, she started the phone call needing help with something. Of course, I was happy to oblige. "I had a favor I wanted to ask you," she said. "Are you still babysitting on the side for extra money?" No, but if you're needing one, I can help out," I replied. "Of course, I'd never ask you to pay me." She was silent for a few moments, and I realized why whenever I heard her daughter in the background yelling at how she'd need a babysitter. I chuckled, remembering when we were that age. While they bickered for a bit, I realized I couldn't even remember the last time I had seen Cheryl's daughter. She had always planned any outing that we had around her daughter's school time, or gotten babysitters for after-school hours. Even if she stopped by my house to say a quick hello, her daughter was never interested in getting out of the car, complaining about wanting to go home, according to Cheryl. "You have to kill the child. Sacrifice her for your youth." The sudden reappearance of the deep voice in my head made me fumble with the phone and gasp, catching Cheryl off guard, who quickly asked me if I was okay in a concerned voice. I felt my cheeks heat up as I grew embarrassed that it had gone as far as to insert itself into my everyday conversations with people. I apologized to Cheryl, and I made up an excuse about seeing a spider. We talked about what had been going on with us in the week gap since we had talked, reciting the events of our day like we had done since we were learning multiplication tables, a desk away from each other. Cheryl always had a very reassuring way about her, so I had quickly forgotten about the voice's intrusion. At least before it butted itself in again. "You know, she always has been there for you when you need her. She had the child for you because she knew you needed." Cheryl was in the middle of discussing some drama that had happened at work, but I couldn't even focus due to how freaked out the voice was making me. I made up some excuse about my mom calling me so I can get off the phone, reiterating the babysitting plans once more before hanging up the phone. The voice didn't stop trying to convince me, though. I had to put up with that for what felt like years rather than days. Once she was waiting on my doorstep after Cheryl dropped her off, rolling her eyes at me as I greeted her. It gave me a deep, sinister-sounding chuckle. I ignored it, leading her into the house and giving her the Wi-Fi password upon her immediately giving it to me. As she sat there typing away at the keyboard on her phone, I couldn't help but admire how much her looks resembled Cheryl. She looked like a miniature version of her, and I couldn't help but admit that filled me with jealousy. I had spent years wishing to look like her mom, yet she got to have that perfection for free. "It isn't fair, is it?" the voice asked. "I can help you get that beauty." I tried to ignore the voice, picking at the loose threads on the armchair that I was sitting on. Awkward silence filled the air as Cheryl's daughter pretended not to notice my presence. "Spoiled little brat. She doesn't deserve that beauty. I can help you get it." I peeked at her as she was taking selfies, replying to people on what I assume was Snapchat. She started videoing, during which I'm pretty sure she turned the camera around to video me, scrunching up her face in a disgusted manner, but I didn't understand why I was so angry. Was the voice finally getting to me, or was the voice just the source of anger in general? Was the reason I felt like every inch of my body was suddenly filled with rage? In an attempt to try and distract myself, I had the idea to make small talk. I realized I knew basically nothing about Cheryl's daughter. I had always been too focused on Cheryl. "So, how old are you?" I started. "Like, how long have I been here?" "On Earth? Yes," I sarcastically replied. "At least 2, she replied. "At least 2 what?" I asked, growing annoyed. "Years? Well, duh." "How was I supposed to know that you meant years?" I snapped. "Because a human wouldn't be this developed if it was only a few months," she replied. Totally being a smartass. Any guilt about my rage faded away more and more, and I felt like she was testing me. "Well, you're clearly more than 2 years old," I shot back. "That's why I said at least," she said. "You've been my mom's friend for years, but you don't know my age." "If I knew it, would I be asking you right now?" I asked. "Then how do you know to get my birthday present every year?" "Because your mom tells me it's your birthday," I replied. She thought about this statement for a moment before giving me a shrug. "Well, can I guess your age?" she asked. "Sure," I said, wary that I was going to get another smart-ass comment. "I would say..." She trailed off, fumbling with the pop socket on the back of her phone. "At least 30. She looked at me for clarification, but I was too aggravated to correct her. "My mom's about to turn 30, but you look older than her," she explained. I didn't even feel like correcting her. All I could focus on was my anger, particularly practically seeing red. The voice chuckling in the back of my mind, egging it on, didn't help at all either. I felt like she could see smoke coming out of my ears with how much rage was building up in my body. She quickly got on her phone again and looked away from me, but she mumbled something about being 13 before beginning to type away on her keyboard again. We sat there for a few more minutes in silence. Me trying to distract myself from my emotions by making the armchair practically threadbare. Her watching videos on social media. "You want to, don't you?" asked the voice. I responded by picking up the threads more aggressively. I also didn't want to admit that the voice was gaining control over me. Embarrassed at being so weak and insecure. "It's okay," it said, sensing my emotions. "There's been others like you that needed my help." I glanced at her as the voice continued to talk to me, wondering if I could actually listen to the voice's pleas for her to be harmed. She was Cheryl's daughter, after all. She would hate me. "If you do this, you won't need Cheryl." That comment made me sad. I frowned down at the chair. "Oh, it'll be okay," it reassured me. "You won't need Cheryl's beauty near you to feel happy anymore. You'll have your own beauty to focus on, and you'll no longer feel that jealousy in your heart." Images and flashbacks of Cheryl began to flash through my mind at random moments where I had been mesmerized by her beauty, longing to be her. Spend so much of my life simply focusing on my happiness, on the fact that I was lucky enough to have her as a best friend, I realized I'd become obsessed with her beauty, pawning after it for myself without ever actually noticing. Still, can I really risk my own friendship for this? It wasn't the most healthy relationship, but at least she had been there for me. I debated this in my head, throwing thoughts back and forth until the universe gave me an answer to my questions. I watched as Cheryl's daughter appeared to not realize that I was watching her, took her gum out of her mouth, and smeared it all over the bottom of the side table sitting next to the chair she was in. The rage bubbled back in me as I wondered how such a rude, inconsiderate creature could be blessed with such beauty just by simply being born. I had to have that beauty. I would have that beauty. "Offer to make dinner," said the voice. "I'll tell you what to do." I did exactly as the voice said, mostly letting the anger control me, really. We made our way into the kitchen, where I heated up some chicken nuggets and french fries, some that I had in the freezer. She sat at the kitchen counter on a stool, watching more videos as I leaned up against the counter, sipping on a glass of wine. It was doing nothing to help my overwhelming emotions, and I felt very jittery despite drinking the beverage. Even still, I awaited my orders. I prepared to do what I had to. "Grab the wine bottle and hit her with it," it said. "She'll see that from a mile away," I thought back to it. "Tell her you have some soda in your pantry and that she's welcome to get one. Once her back is turned towards it, do it." I glanced at the pantry door behind her, swishing the wine around in my glass before downing it all. She glanced up as I set the wine glass down a little more loudly than I meant to. "There's some Coke in the pantry behind you if you want to get a can," I said. "I'll get you some ice in a glass for it." She shrugged before swinging around on the stool and getting ready to hop down, her platinum blonde ponytail swinging and sending waves of jealousy through me. In one quick motion, I grabbed the wine bottle and smacked it over the back of her head, causing her to instantly crumple. I was shocked at how fast I was able to move until I heard the voice chuckling again, sure that it had helped some. I stared at the body for a moment, bewildered at the fact that I was capable of that. Sensing this, the voice called me back to reality, saying, "Hey, we have to be quick." I don't know what to do. "It's okay. I'll show you how to do the ritual." My arms began to move on their own accord, an unseen force guiding my movements. Even if I hadn't wanted to do the ritual voluntarily, I wouldn't have had any other option based on the effect this force had on me. "Now I want to warn you. The things we're about to do will cause immense pain to the child. She will scream a lot. However, that pain and those screams are required for the ritual to work." "What about the neighbors?" I asked, becoming slightly unsure. "Won't they hear?" I nervously bit my lip as I waited for the voice to respond. "You don't have to worry about that," is all it replied before my arms began to move again. The screams were blood-curdling, nothing like the horror movie's portrayal of it. It felt like it literally shook my bones, sending more and more vibrations through my body as the pitch of her screams increased. I don't see how my hands were able to make such precise cuts, with how much I felt I was shaking. The vibrations increased more and more until I felt like every cell, every molecule and atom in my body was being ripped apart and shaken around like a maraca before conjoining back together and starting the process all over again. A pain I hoped no one else had to endure. Right whenever it became so unbearable that I felt like I could actually force my hands to stop moving, her screams stopped. I could finally move again, and I used my new freedom to look down at the table. Her body was dismembered, dismantled, and disfigured. The only thing that made the body still resemble her at all were her crystal blue irises, her eyes being the only organ still attached. Immediately, I broke down in sobs at what I had done, scrambling to pick up organs, intestines, skin, a wide variety of other things I couldn't name to put them back into her body, and after a few minutes of me freaking out and working on this futile effort, the voice finally spoke.
You have to eat them.
Eat? What? I yelled, aggravated at my interruption of bodily organization.
Her organs. Eat her organs and drink her blood.
Why? I asked, looking at myself in the mirror, smushing my face and accidentally smearing her blood all over me due to having forgotten I was covered in it. I don't look any different, so what was the point? I was on the verge of breaking out into sobs.
It will be what unlocks your youth whenever you complete the ritual.
Looking down at her body, my tears began to drip down into her chest cavity. For some reason, that made me cry harder.
Do it now before someone shows up!
I thought you said they couldn't hear the screams.
Just do as I say, before I make you do it myself.
Sniffling, I slowly reached my hands towards the pile of organs surrounding her body. How much blood do I need to drink for it to work?
Just a little.
Hearing this, I slightly dipped my pinky into a puddle of blood that had formed at the base of her back, coating the tip in the crimson liquid. I recoiled as I brought it to my face, finding the coppery scent disgusting. Without so much as a warning, though, the unseen force once again put itself into control, shoving my finger into my mouth so hard I thought that I would be eating myself for a moment. Sucking the finger dry, both of my hands quickly headed towards the pile of organs, piling together large amounts of it into a grip before shoveling them down my throat. If it weren't for the force making me chew and swallow, I'm sure I would have choked. After every bit of viscera was gone, I was gagging. The voice asked,
See, that wasn't so bad, was it?
I felt a pat on my back after that comment, like an attempt at reassurance. But it only sent chills down my spine. I didn't know the voice was so powerful. Reassurance was the exact opposite emotion of the next order it gave to me.
Now, I want you to take the knife and stab it into your throat.
What?
Don't worry, you won't die. Her youth is already coursing through your body. This will only eliminate your aging, essentially rebirthing you into youthfulness.
Even at its promise of my youth, I hesitated, unsure if I should have gone this route. However, I knew I really had no other option. Even if I tried to fight back, I'd be unsure to even stop it. Even still, I decided to use up my last bit of hope. Do I have any other option? I asked.
You had the option for it to be voluntary. Now, you've made me too impatient, so it's not.
It stabbed me in the jugular and I blacked out within moments. When I woke up, I was covered in blood. I was drenched from head to toe, really. Whether it was mostly my own or Cheryl's daughter, I didn't know, but I needed it off of me. It coated me so thick that I could barely see my skin, caking my clothes to my body like a second skin. Feeling a very sudden and urgent need to wash it all off before I was covered in my own vomit as well, I rushed to the shower. I expected the voice to complain about me not getting rid of the body first, but all I heard was silence. I thought it was weird, but the need to be clean overwhelmed my curiosity to figure out where the voice had gone. Stepping over the shower wall was surprisingly difficult due to how sore my legs felt. It felt like I was lifting up to 100 pounds. I figured it was from the amount of blood that I had lost, and I decided to get something to eat and rest after my shower. And there was no telling how long I had been out. And I was very glad that I was still alive. I guess the voice did keep its promise. I was about to wipe the steam off the mirror whenever I first heard the loud pounding against my front door. Wrapping my robe around me swiftly, I made my way to the peephole to see who the hell it was. I glanced at the clock to see the time. Who the hell had the nerve to pound on my door at 11 at night? My anger quickly turned to panic as I saw a police officer. As I unlocked the door with shaky hands, I opened it to see another, possibly a partner, leaning against one of the pillars on my porch. "What can I do for you, officers?" I said. My voice sounded funny as I said it, like it had gone hoarse. I cleared my throat, but it felt incredibly parched. I assumed it was my nerves, and I waited for them to respond. "Oh, did we wake you, ma'am?" said the officer. "Sorry if we did. We're coming to check on you because we heard some reports of someone screaming." "Oh, he didn't wake me," I replied. "Everything's fine here." "We heard reports of a little girl screaming," announced his partner as he stood up from his position against the pillar. "Violently screaming. Have you heard anything?" No, our neighborhood's normally pretty quiet, honestly." I attempted to act nonchalant, but I had no idea if it was really working. They looked at each other for a brief moment, seemingly deciding which direction to go. "Do you mind if we take a look inside?" asked the first officer. I debated the options in my head before responding. Would it make me look suspicious to say no? But what about the body? Would the voice be able to take on both of them if needed? Where had the voice even gone? The second officer cleared his throat, waiting for a response. I had taken too long, and now I knew they had to be suspicious. I had to invite them in. "Oh, no, it's okay," I finally said. "You can come in." The pillar officer was the one they decided to look around, while the nicer one stayed in the living room with me. I noticed he was staring at a framed picture of me I had on the wall. A present from my mother. It was a byproduct of her photography business. I wasn't super fond of how I looked in it, but I loved the proud smile that she gave it when she came to visit. I was thinking of this whenever he asked a particularly rude question. "Is that your granddaughter?" he asked. But he quickly backtracked once he saw the offended look on my face. "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought she looked an awful lot like you is all." "It's because she is me," I rudely responded. He gave me a weird look at this response, as if he was confused, but the pillar officer walked back into the living room before anything else could be said. "All clear," he said, strangely with his brow furrowed. Had he expected to find something? I led them back to the door as the nicer officer apologized for intruding at such a late hour. "You have a nice night, ma'am," he said as they walked out. "Yeah, you too." I shut the door behind them, taking no time at all to lock the door and let out the breath that I had been holding. The question he had still lingered in my head, filling the pit of my stomach with dread. I had to know why he asked it, why he seemed so confused by my response. I made my way back to my bathroom. I was still warm from my shower, patches of condensation still lingering in the mirror. I crept towards the counter, hands shaking as I reached out over it. Was I imagining things, or did the skin look looser? I shoved the thoughts to the back of my mind, knowing that if I let the fear get to me, I'd never be able to look at myself again. I looked in the mirror and was immediately so horrified that I slammed to the floor, more likely bruising my knees with the force. I didn't feel the pain, however, because I was too focused on trying to comprehend what I had just seen. The voice had lied. It had lied. I wasn't youthful or beautiful, not even remotely close to that at all. I had become an old hag. My skin a loose and wrinkly mess. Not only were the crow's feet, the smile lines, and forehead creases now extremely prominent, but wrinkles in places I didn't even know wrinkles could exist were now marring my face. My under-eye bags were so big, I felt like I could use them as actual purses. The shape of my face had turned into a constant scowl that refused to leave my face no matter how much I tried. Even with a smile, I just looked menacing. Like the storybook tales of an old witch who ate children. Oh. I got up as fast as I could with the state of my body, and I half-sprinted, half-hobbled to the room that her body was in. Slamming the door shut, I looked around the room to see that the body was gone. The blood that coated my frail body so thickly that I didn't even notice the change yet was gone. The entrails, the inner workings of the child gone as well. The only thing remaining from the experience was the knife used to slice her up now clean and sitting in the middle of the table as if waiting for its next project. A thought entered my head when I saw it. Why hadn't the officer asked about it? Why wasn't he not suspicious of a random knife sitting on a table by itself? It wasn't until I got closer and realized that it wasn't something the voice had wanted the cops to see. It was specifically for me. I knew because engraved on the blade was thanks for your sacrifice.
Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and it's the end of today's video, or today's episode of the podcast, which means I want to tell you guys thank you so much for watching. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe and bell, and I think it's still subscribe on podcasts. One day I'll look that up. If you guys are listening on your phone, like I think the statistics say like 90% of you are, then on your phone you can also listen on another place. It's an app called Chilling. The Chilling app allows you to listen to stories from me that you can't get here, as well as stories from a whole group of other narrators. A lot of them you've heard before, some of them you've even heard here, like Autumn Ivy. Plus, it allows you to control the background music and background ambiance, which I think is probably one of the coolest features on there. Check out Chilling on Android and iOS now. I want to give a very big thank you to everybody on Patreon, especially Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Bryon Arce, Bobby Karman, Tristain Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Robert Schonkwiller, USMC, Matt Bach, Jables Raz, Masked Note, Joshua Mullen, Dan Pham, Matthew McNeese, Ben Spates, Jeremy H., Raltizal, Fikamal, Nana, The Morgan, Nick Weaver, MeltedLake, Tali Sue, Sky Mara Ravenswood, William King, Reaper 61167, Darth Miver, Micah Ortiz, Satanic Aries, aisodoehtraed, Nessie, Ronnie Hansen, Parafa Panda, Bardohawk 764, Lambda M98, Harley, Billy Morrow, Sashi Suzaku, at Grizzly Olsen Pro, My Body Sounds Like Rice Krispies, Jay, Miss Exandra, Suji Campbell, Stricken, Azarine Fox, Fried Chicken 12, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Willis, Infernal One, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Cryptic Nightmares, Kiri the Sloth, Tommy Green, Fester's Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, Trey Smiles, and Corey Kenshin. Like I said, I cannot thank you guys enough for being a part of this, and that goes to everybody down there in the description, and everybody who even can just support for $1. Thank you guys, thank you guys, thank you guys. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and sweet dreams.